Maputo is a separate world, and we had a bunch of young people who wanted to rethink this question, but how are they going to do it? And what Ford Foundation was able to do is say, right, you have this vision. You, as the director of CEF said back in 1993, we want to find out what it means to be able to sit down with peasants and talk about forest management. We were able to give them the resources to do that. We were able to give those people who wanted the resources to get out of Maputo, to be based across this huge country, working practically on the ground with real issues, with real communities, with local government structures, and so on and so forth. When you work for a foundation, when you're looking at your program, I think that one of the most important things to do, to reflect upon, is to work out who are going to be the change agents for you in this society, who really can make a difference, both from studying that society, but also from studying your own foundation. Identify them and make sure that in terms of how you distribute your resources, you're meeting their needs.
Can come here and to learn and to discuss with us. And is some kind of person that you can talk and you can discuss and you can exchange ideas and I think that is one of the most important, because some donors come here with some ideas and they want that you should do it. If you don't do it, don't give the money. But can come here and discuss with us our needs.
The program officer has to listen deeply to the grantee. It has to be a listening relationship. Secondly, must be validating. Normally speaking, we're looking for new people with new ideas, people who often don't get much support for those ideas. We need to validate those ideas. But then immediately, we need to be critical. People are not just looking for, yeah, you're doing everything fine. They need their ideas to be criticized. They want a genuine relationship with you. They want to hear, and certainly you can challenge them with your suggestions about how to do things. When you have a really healthy relationship, they will just take that as one of the many pieces of advice and they will chart their own course. What you certainly can do is help them get in touch with other kinds of comparative experiences. We can identify which places in the world have that particular kind of experience which is relevant to what somebody's trying to do. Linking people with similar people around the world, but also within their countries. Also, we can link different levels. Because we gain the trust of all of these people in very different kinds of positions, we can help the person see where else in their own country there are people with whom they can link up and do more. Finally, and only finally, to resource with grant funding, to give the money to them. A key feature of programming is not just to support good work by one or another agency. A key feature of programming is to find a way to get agencies that can and should play complementary roles to work together, to get NGOs and government agencies working together, to get research agencies not only doing good research, but feeding that research concretely into the practice of NGOs and of government. And I think actually this is the most important thing that funders can do. Funders don't realize quite often they end up separating agencies by funding them separately. And the interacting together really happens in two kinds of ways. The first kind of way is you as a program officer, bringing them in slightly different ways around a problem. And the second aspect, which must surely soon follow, is that the agencies themselves start to interact and start to gain ideas from each other, start to collaborate together in different kinds of ways, and start to generate new perspectives. Not just collaborating to solve a problem, but understanding how one's moving the whole problem forward and identifying, well, what is the next stage in the policy area, in the legal framework area, or in the capacity to deliver on the ground, actually have concrete outputs in the lives and impacts on the lives of people. You're there to work in concert with a whole set of grantees, and so the first thing must be that the foundation program officer has to be able to let others play the lead role in actually changing things and be a resource to those people, and must be able to separate. The Chimani Mani program really provides a wonderful laboratory for how to bring these different kind of agencies together. We've got the governmental implementing agencies, the SPFFB in particular, the Provincial Forestry and Wildlife Service, creating the framework, if you like, of rights and community participation, but then bringing in NGOs to actually realize this in practice, bringing in ORAM to help mobilize and organize the communities, bringing in AMRU, the Association of Rural Mozambican Women, to bring groups of women together to develop concretely the honey and mushroom enterprises which enable women to generate income from the management of natural resources. Bringing in research agencies like the Sociocultural Research Institute, RPAC, and the CEF, the Forest Research Institute, to actually work out, and investigate these tremendously challenging relationships between people and environment over time. And bringing in cultural organizations like GESOM, which focus really on audio-visual dissemination, and bringing in the PAC, the Cultural Activist Program, which brings in a dance and street theatre perspective. The agencies involved in the Chimanimani program work together really in two kinds of ways. One is they meet on a monthly basis or on a regular basis in the provincial capital, in Chimoio, and discuss what are the problems, what are the priorities, who's doing what else they need to do, why things are not moving forward, or whatever they need to discuss collectively. The second way they work together is out there in the field. If you have coordination there in the office, but you're not really experiencing and collaborating around the actual situation of the villages, of the mountains, of the forests, it's very unlikely that you're really going to meet needs. So from time to time, they go on joint expeditions into the mountain areas, looking at the situation on the ground, working with the communities on the ground, and using that to better craft actually how they come together around the problems to bring the Chimanimani process forward. I think the most important thing is don't feel that you somehow have to, in the period of X number of months, construct the whole thing. It has to be an ongoing, slow, steady, iterative process. You've got to go step by step, brick by brick. And as you put in each brick, you'll find it has a different shape than you thought it did, and you'll find you're going to go in a different direction. You're going to hear new things from grantees. The situation in the area that you're working is going to change dramatically in ways that you can't expect. But build in such a way as you're always going forward, you're always responding to a situation. As a program officer crafts their initiative, you have to realize that you can only really work with a small or relatively small number of institutions. Core institutions in the sense that you're not only concerned about what they do, but you're concerned about the building of the capacity of their institutions, the nurturing of the creativity of their staff. And if you try to take on more core institutions than that, you simply won't have enough time to understand them and to give them the inputs that they require. One of the issues that you have to address is which geographic areas are you going to work. We need to identify a few locations in which to do our focused work, especially the pilot program work. Don't take one location. Something might happen in that one location, internal to the project or external to the project, which will shape events and mean that it can't be a laboratory for the country. Choose a number of locations, and in line with the particularities of those locations, do things completely differently. Chumachatu is led by a small core of officials working within the Forestry and Wildlife Service. Chimanimani is different. Chimanimani has several research agencies and NGOs that are balancing very much the work of the Forestry and Wildlife Service. And we'll see, what does this mean? How will it unfold? It'll be very different. Work in a number of locations, but the really important thing is link those experiences organically to the national policy reform process. You must build the capacity of a country to use its own experience to make its policy reform. Concrete experience. As a program officer engages with their grantees in an initiative over a period of time, the program officer really needs to think about their role and understand that their role is going to change. The special circumstances in Mozambique, if we go back to 1993-94, required of me a very unusual type of role. And it was really important to the Mozambicans that I didn't just say, here's money to work with communities. I went with them into these areas, and we together were able to learn far more about what it would actually take in Mozambique to create the relationships with local communities that would actually work. This approach is not something I would have done in many other circumstances. Again, looking at working in this kind of way as a process, one of the really important challenges for me is to phase out that type of relationship. People can now do it for themselves. I'm not involved in Chumachatu now in the way that I was involved some years ago. The key thing now for the foundation is to see, well, where do we go next? What do we need to do now? And without turning our back on those young people, we now have to help look at their institutions. How can we make their institutions durable, effective, capable of delivering the services which they as individuals have? And this is why now I'm so concerned with working with, for example, the Centre of Forestry Research and RPAC and others to recreate themselves in terms of their statutes, in terms of their relationship with other statutory bodies, in terms of their capacity for autonomous financial management. So the program officer must be ever self-reflective about what is the next kind of role that they need to take, and be strong enough to do that.